Hello, beloved earthbound fam. The zodiacal wheel is in a flux of push and pull energetics right now, y'all. One side of the wheel is full of the infant planets, all in direct motion. That's Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And on the other side of the wheel, we have most of the elder planets, all in retrograde. And that's Saturn, our buddy Neptune, and Pluto. And then Chiron, the planetary representative of the inner child, just went retrograde as well, joining Saturn, Nep, and Pluto in their retrograde party going on up above. So how does this affect us all here below? Well, let's have a little discussion about that, shall we? As always, reel this information in or release it freely. This is just my interpretation as I see the chart. If it doesn't resonate with you, please leave it behind. Otherwise, let's get into it. All of this retrograde or pulling energy from the elders of the zodiac and the direct or pushing energy from the infants of the zodiac is happening during this year's Lionsgate, or the 8-8 portal. But this year's Lionsgate portal is much more detrimental, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, so take it as you will, but it is much more detrimental to our destinational directions. This year's Lionsgate is the portal that will guide us into the vortex of dualities the Stargate of the solar and lunar eclipses are providing us with in this fall season. In a very determining year, because we're in a 1 year, right? 2026, 2 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10, 1 plus 0 equals 1. In a very determining year of the course of our collective and individual destinies when it comes to the new paradigm of the age of Aquarius. With the planets that are in retrograde, their energetics move backwards and very slowly. If they were human, you could accuse them of being somewhat cynical because of their backwards thoughts and slow-moving motion, right? Their direct energetics become compromised or weaker, kind of like Superman in a cave of kryptonite, which I've described before. It's not that these planets don't have their direct powers. It's that they can't utilize them, for lack of a better description. So I'm going to get into a quick synopsis, sort of quick, of these archetypal direct energies versus their retrograde energetics. So Saturn first. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and his main direct archetypal energetics are restriction, discipline, and karma. Discipline meaning how well we conduct ourselves and our energy in our earthbound actions, and karma meaning the consequences of those actions. With that in mind, Saturn is a zodiacal elder, and therefore leader, and his direct energetics define the epitome of the word following. Saturn, when he's direct, expects us to follow rules, follow regulations, follow traditions, follow customs, follow or keep track of expenditures, follow time, follow dates, follow seasons, follow. Saturn is like the drill sergeant of the zodiac, and he requires us to give our best at all times to all of our endeavors. And once we achieve the best we can do, he rewards us and then asks us to do even better. When Saturn is in retrograde, Saturn couldn't care less about the actions that we are performing down here on Earth plane, and his karmic consequences, good or bad, become basically nil. His disciplinary energetics are on the fritz, and it's like he's on a beach vacation without any signal, drinking margaritas, staying up all night, partying until dawn, and then doing it all over again. If we were Saturn's children, with him on this beach vacation, we would be the kids running amok, creating chaos and confusion and conundrums wherever our little feet landed. Think of it like that. Now moving on to our buddy Neptune. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and his main direct archetypal energetics are disillusion, etherealism, meaning out of this worldness, and insensibility. Neptune is a zodiacal elder also, and the epitome of thinking and acting outside of the box. He is pretty much the opposite of Saturn's required following. He's flamboyant, he's exotic, he's like a magical walking unicorn. He does not follow rules in any way, shape, or form, and in fact, he bends them, breaks them, and then rearranges them to fit his own ideals of what rules should be, which is non-existent. This is why he gains the reputation for being the illusionist of the zodiac and creating delusions or warped perceptions of the plain old truth. Nep doesn't really like the plain old truth. He would rather create his own truth, utilizing his delusional energetics, and live there always and forevermore. Who needs stupid reality when you can live in constant fantasy, right? That's Nep. When Nep is in retrograde, though, it's like someone slapped him upside his delusional skull and brought his fantastical world crashing down into the full spectrum of reality, or the plain old truth. Suddenly, his rose-colored glasses are ripped off, and he can see things for exactly what they are. And he does not like that. Nope. He doesn't like it at all. When Nep is in retrograde, I picture him wrapped up in bubble wrap, fully gloved, masked, and donning any other kind of protective gear he can throw on his body. His flamboyance becomes frightful. His exotic becomes reserved, and his magical unicorn becomes mainstream. So let's talk about Pluto. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and his main direct archetypal energetics are the perfect blend of duality in its highest regards, according to our integrity. He's the ruler of disintegration, death, renewal, and rebirth. Yes, but we can take that further into the moral realms of how we treat ourselves and others, with grace versus greed, mercy versus mercilessness, and sovereignty versus subservience. Pluto rules the underworld. Excuse me. Pluto rules the underworld, and he's the epitome of how we utilize what we've learned so far in the adult houses of the zodiacal wheel. Coincidentally, if you believe in those, Scorpio, the house that Pluto rules, is the 8th house of the zodiac. So it's quite synchronistic that he is in retrograde at the time of the Lion's Gate, or the 8-8 portal. Pluto is the final zodiacal adult house in the zodiac, and in the journey through the adult houses, if our maturity levels have not been optimized, Pluto is the one who will put the energetic razor wire in our paths to tell us, "You shall not pass!" Because he is the gatekeeper, he is the gatekeeper to the elder houses, where the full suit of maturity must be worn to operate well in our full well-being and wellness in the elder houses. When Pluto is direct, he tests us on how much we have learned and matured in our life's journey, our adult life's journey. He tests our morals, our habits, our integrity, our emotional stability, and the strength of our dignity. Pluto is all about mature morality or the lack of it. He represents financial stability or instability through the gain or loss and the use of other people's money. He represents sexual responsibility or carelessness, and he represents emotional states of eruption or composure. When Pluto is retrograde, the lines between his perfect blend of moral duality are severely blurred. And this creates a sense of confusion in what and where our moral status truly resides. Here's an example of what I mean. Say you're up for a promotion and a substantial raise at work. You're a single person with no kids, and the money you're making now is more than enough for you to live on. You have all debts to mortgage, vehicles, playthings, etc. completely paid off, and you're able to travel or do whatever you want without any financial burden. Now, let's say there's another person at work that is up for the same promotion and raise. This person makes the same income as you, but they're married with 3 kids, and because of this, they are eyeball deep in debt and loans. They don't know how they'll meet next month's required bills, let alone put food on the table for their family. If this person gets the promotion and the raise, it would truly help their quality of life and the lives of their family members. But if you get the promotion, it's just more dollar bills stacking up in your bank account. So you have a choice here. You can compete with this coworker for the promotion and the raise, which doesn't necessarily add to your quality of life, just the quantity of your money. Or you can relinquish the promotion to your coworker, and in doing so, give them an opportunity to increase the quality of their life and the lives of their family. When Pluto is in retrograde, the strength and the truth of our integrity is on the line, and we are tested with how we will direct it. Pluto retrograde forces us to make decisions about our well-being, but also the well-being of those around us. He makes us examine whether or not we will put our own desires before others' necessities by putting us in the throes of situations that test those morals and virtues. So let's talk about Chiron and retrograde now. Chiron does not rule a zodiacal house, but his energetics do directly affect how we relate to and act in the world around us according to our childhood experiences. Chiron is the wounded healer of the zodiac. And if you don't know the story of Chiron, feel free to watch the vloggy that I linked in the description. As the cosmic energetic of the inner child and the wounded healer, Chiron represents our personal history and the emotional, mental, and even physical wounds it's caused us. Simultaneously, he represents the healing journey we have, or have not, embarked on to recognize, rectify, and release those wounds so we can regain and progress the strength and dignity of our inner child and come back into harmony with ourselves and the world around us. When Chiron is in retrograde, any unhealed history we may be holding comes to the surface, and what we may not have been aware of concerning the wounds of our inner child from our personal history becomes undeniably evident. The revelations of how we take on personal responsibility or don't take on personal responsibility is laid at our proverbial doorsteps, revealing the truth of our emotions and mentalities. For instance, how we project blame and shame onto others when we think they've done something terrible, or how we give praise to others when we think they've done something wonderful. When Chiron is direct, he is our cosmic guide to reviving the life of our inner child, back to their childlike states of mind. When he's in retrograde, he pulls us into the recesses of our psyches, or you could say he makes us face our triggers, so we can understand why it is we throw out the projections we feel and perceive into the world around us. Chiron is one of the greatest gurus of the zodiac, and his retrograde is beckoning us to become greater students of this thing called life down here on Earth plane, rather than operate in the know-it-all states of judgment, denial, and opinions. So let's look at the other side of the zodiac, where the infant planets are pushing us into. They're pushing because they're all going forward. Most of them are in the adult houses, as you will come to find. So today, August 6th, Venus, who we'll discuss first, moves into the void degree between the adult houses of Virgo and Libra. I did write a vloggy about Venus and Virgo, as well as did a tarot talk and tour about Venus and Virgo. If you missed those, I'll link them in the description as well. But let's get back to Venus in this particular vloggy. Venus is a very unique planet because she has a dual reign in the zodiacal wheel. She rules both the infant Earth house of Taurus as well as the adult house of Libra, where she will be fully in as of tomorrow morning. The house of Libra is the adult air sign and represents the lessons of mental maturity that we have learned or that we need to learn. Mental maturity is what develops balance in our four-body experience here on Earth plane, the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. If our thoughts are out of balance or running amok, then our emotions follow that imbalance, which leaks into our physical body and its imbalance, and then compromises, if not destroys, our spiritual balance. The house of Libra is symbolized by the scales, or more accurately, the scales of justice. And the scales of justice are described as weighing our hearts against a feather. If our hearts are heavy with mental anguish, then they will weigh us down, sinking us into despair, desperation, and hopelessness. If our hearts are as light as a feather, then we have developed, or are well on the way to developing, the mental maturity we need as we journey into the elder houses, where we can flourish in mind, heart, body, and soul, if our mental maturity is developed in its fullness. As Venus maneuvers through the house of Libra, she puts on a blindfold to our states of mentality and lets the truth of our hearts show her if we are ready to move into the depths of adulting when we cross into the realm of Scorpio, Pluto's house. If our heartstrings are stuck in or are pulled into the past hurts, regrets, or miseries, then Venus will not grant us peace and harmony on our forward journey. She won't disrupt our ability to find those either, but the notes are taken into consideration, and we may find that our human existence is challenged by more difficult experiences than necessary. But Venus isn't the one who controls this. We are the ones who control this. Let me put it this way. When we are faced with times of adversity, the adversity itself cannot be controlled, but our reactions and responses to the adversity can be controlled. If we stay in the mental muck and the gunk of adversity, though, it will haunt us for as long as we remain there, burying us in sadness or regret or despair or whatever negative mental state you want to wallow in, making us victims of our own mentalities. But, my friends, this is a choice. No one is forced to take the road of victimization. But the only way to get off of that self-destructive path is to grow up and take personal responsibility for our actions or reactions, and allow ourselves to work through the pain that it caused instead of getting stuck in it. And then finally, come to accept that whatever happened is something that has taught us valuable lessons in becoming a stronger, smarter, and more self-reliant human being. Everything happens for a reason, my friends, regardless of how tragic it may be. The question is, with Venus now in Libra, are you ready to have your heart weighed against the feather? It's a good time to evaluate this question. So let's talk about Mercury. On August 9th, the day after the full opening of the Lionsgate portal, Mercury crosses over the threshold of Cancer, the infant house of water, and Leo, the adult house of fire. Mercury is also unique because he too has a dual reign in the zodiacal wheel. Mercury rules both the infant air house of Gemini as well as the adult earth house of Virgo. And really, my reference to Mercury in the masculine is not necessarily accurate, because not only does Mercury rule two different houses, Merc also embodies the energetics of masculine when he is in Gemini and the energetic of feminine when she is in Virgo. For reference of what I'm talking about, this may help the comprehension of the words because I know it's a little confusing. Mercury is the Roman mythological name. In ancient Greek history, Mercury is Hermes. In our world, there is a word, hermaphrodite, that describes the perfect blend of masculine and feminine energetics. Although we, as humans, have given it an undeserving negative connotation. Very judgy judgersons. In truth, the word hermaphrodite comes from the Latin word hermaphroditus. Hermaphroditus was a god in Greek history. He was the child of both Mercury, or Hermes, and Venus, who in Greek history is Aphrodite. Get it? Hermaphroditus. Hermaphrodite. If you know Greek history, then you know Hermes was not gifted with great beauty or handsomeness or brawn or strength or this great physicality. But Hermes was born with an intelligence that no other god possessed, as well as a keen sense of communication and analyzation, which comes from his Gemini side, and virtuousness and integrity, which comes from her Virgo side. Mercury's crossing into Leo, the adult house of fire, brings him to the threshold of adulting 101. In the house of Leo, Mercury will transform from having Geminian outside duality, and that's a masculine trait because Gemini is represented by the symbol of the twins, two male twins, and transmute this duality into an inner oneness, marrying the outside dualities into a single form of virtuousness through the adult lessons of Leo that teach love, honor, respect, loyalty, and courage. When Mercury gets into her house of Virgo, she is born again as the virgin or the virtuous. See what I'm saying? So Mercury is known for quick learning, almost instant learning, you could say. And Mercury moves fast. He's the fastest moving planet around Father Sun. So these lessons that he'll be picking up and putting out will be coming in through rapid fire, one could say. For us down here below, this rapid fire may look like triggers being pulled in our lives from all different directions. Now, what I'm about to say may be one of those triggers. So if these words don't resonate with you or make sense to you, then please leave them behind. Okay? Reel it in or release it freely. But if you can bring yourself to listen to them and give consideration to the explanation I'm about to give, then these words could help you in your future endeavors. With that said, let me give you my personal outlook on what triggers are. Triggers are pent-up emotions that develop out of mental anguishes we have not allowed ourselves to work through. They are unprocessed, buried thoughts that stop our mental energetic pathways and create blockages that our mental energy cannot flow through. When energy can't flow, it gets stuck and creates barriers, hindering, or in some cases even halting, our ability to be malleable, to bend, to adapt to the outside world in a whole and healthy way. Therefore, triggers, although very uncomfortable, create opportunities for us to face the emotions that set them off and understand, rather than understand, why those emotions are created within us. And then, once we can come to the understanding, the whys behind the emotions help us to create a path to healing, as well as to find the inner tools we need to work through the mental anguish and extinguish it once and for all. So that's just my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. Mercury, being the infant air sign, will be facing his triggers in the house of Leo, and it could get pretty hot because Merc is air and Leo is fire. Air flares fire, right? So some of these lessons might be heated when it comes to how we experience them. Leo represents the heart in the human body, so these lessons, these triggers, are again going to be one of the factors that will be the result of how we experience our adulting as we go with Venus through the house of Libra to meet the scales of justice. How well can we deal with the heat of our emotions? How well can we mentally handle challenges that arise? There's a phrase that the psychology world refers to in our ability to react or respond, and that is called the fight, flight, or freeze, right? I'm sure you've all heard that before. Mercury going through the house of Leo can be a mirror, showing us exactly which of these responses our inner child runs to when we're faced with problems and difficulties. And I really hate those words. I hate the word problems. I hate the word difficulties, because really what they are synonyms for the word challenges. All challenges can be overcome if we just keep working through them. When we stop working through them, or we run from them, or we block them, we will inevitably get stuck and swollen with more and more problems piling up in our lives. As Mercury goes through the house of Leo, he will be learning how to deal with the heat that comes from outside forces, as well as the heat he creates within himself. And he is gifting us the energetics to do the same. So let's talk about Mars. On August 11th, the day before the full solar eclipse on August 12th, Mars, the planet of infant fire, will cross out of the infant house of air, which is Gemini, and into the infant house of water, which is Cancer. This one's gonna be a doozy, y'all. Because Mars, being both the babiest of the babes of the zodiacal wheel, as well as the representative of the infant, as well as the infant of fire of the zodiacal wheel, because he represents the house of Aries, infant house of fire. Mars, being fiery, does not like the water. Think of it like the witch and the wizard, the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy throws water on her fiery broom. His move into the first degree of the House of Cancer just happens to coincide in almost the same instant as the first eclipsical stargate of this fall eclipse season, which is the full solar eclipse. Mars is not known for having a gentle nature. He is the god of war, after all. He is the protector of truth at all costs, and the soldier who shoots first and asks questions later. When he plunges into the emotional rivers of the infant house of Cancer, it will be like falling off of a hidden river shelf that couldn't be seen from above the water's edge. He's going to be kicking, flailing, and gasping for air, trying to get to the top of the water in a full-on panic mode from the surprise of the fall. But don't worry about Mars. He is a finely tuned warrior, and he knows how to swim. The surprise of the missed step is going to be a definite wake-up call to him, though, as to how he proceeds through Cancer's watery, emotional realm. Cancer is the infant water sign, and water represents emotions. Mars does not do well with emotions. So this submergence into the river of emotions is certainly going to be challenging, but not in the least bit impossible. Mars also moves pretty quickly Mars also moves pretty quickly through the zodiac. And he will be in Cancer's emotional rivers for about 6 weeks, so right until about the beginning of October. During this time, he will have to slow down, stay alert, and succumb to the flows that the river takes him through. Again, this is a very uncomfy situation for Mars. He likes control. But discomfort builds character, and Mars is all about character, because building character leads to true destiny. And Mars is all about the truth. He's the protector of the truth. Excuse me. My goodness. I'm sorry for all of my whatever's going on in my throat. Emotions are energy in motion. Emotion. You see what I'm saying? While Mars goes through this period of watery emotional challenges, we'll be feeling those too, in a very similar energetic to that of Merc going through the house of Leo. Again, this is an opportunity to face our emotional triggers, to work through them by slowing down, staying alert, recognizing them for what they are, and succumbing to the twists and turns that they take us through. If we can go with the flow and work with the currents, we will find ourselves on new shores. If we fight against the currents, we will find ourselves stuck up against the boulders of emotional blockages that we created for ourselves, swelling up and flooding the shores where we became stuck. Which pretty much leaks this out to everyone around us. Misery loves company. So how does this interact with the solar eclipse? Well, I'm going to go into that in another vlogity because I've taken up quite a bit of your time, and yesterday's vlogity, or the vlogity that I did on Chiron, you'll see it down below, is long. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit short. But if you want to read a Substack bloggity I wrote either last year or the year before, I can't remember, about the eclipses being real-time stargates, I will link that in the description below. And maybe at some point in time, I'll just read that on here on camera for this channel, or I'll write another vloggy on it. I don't know. Anyway, my beloved Earthbound fam, until the next vloggy, live the life you love the gods you trust, and don't take it all too seriously. Because change is inevitable, but you and I can be the change we want to experience and project into the world around us. We may have to go through a bit of a dark, scary forest concerning the challenges to discover what we want to be, but that is the nature of becoming an adult. It's very simple, but not in the least bit easy, I know. But it can be done if we just keep on going. This is how we grow our wings to fly, friends. Fly into the new paradigm of the age of Aquarius. It's just transformation through transmutation. And we are all in this together. And we got this. Especially if we can remember. Remember that you are stars, not standards. Now go shine and have yourselves an incredibly joyful day. I love you so much. Blessed be.